All right, everyone, thank you. Really appreciate it. This is really exciting. I want to move right into it. Before we get into what today is about and what we want to get out of today, I want to quickly go through just what happened to get us to today. For everyone's sake, we don't know when Isaac started the business. Sort of like when you started dating someone in college and it's like, yeah, I don't really know. We were like talking and then all of a sudden we were dating for 5 years. But basically, somewhere in the realm of 2014, Isaac started the AdWords Academy, hired Danny in September of that year, I believe, and moved into our original office at 407 Central, which is sort of a paint studio slash just kind of a really interesting place to try and work. Later that spring, Ari and myself joined, and then it was a really weird, tried to kick things off. We were signing a lot of business. We had a lot of smaller accounts at the time. I think at the highest, at the peak, I think Ari and I were both managing just over 30 clients each, which seemed to be like that level of that's when things got a little too out of control. I think the sweet spot for us was somewhere in the 20 to 25 realm, but it was honestly a really exciting time for the company. We were trying to figure out who we are, what we're doing here, and what the future looks like. It was also like if you look back at our Instagram and see some like the time lapses we did back then, it was just insane. It was chaos. It was a lot of fun. We used to do these Adventure Media Beach Wednesdays. The one summer, every Wednesday, we would go out to West Hampton Beach, set up a tent. We had a Wi-Fi hotspot that never worked. We had a generator. The interesting thing about that is not only did our original relationships here start to develop, that I think is something we've tried to carry through in the culture as the company has grown, but there were some small little things that we took away from that period of time that we still kind of transpire to today. So now we do these Friday rundown meetings where we talk about some company updates every Friday, and then we go into some updates on our newest clients that have come on board. That idea originated because of our Beach Wednesday drives. We used to get in the car after a disastrous day on the beach, getting bitten by bugs and sunburn, and Isaac lost his sunglasses like 7 times in the ocean. And we would get coffee, and then we'd get in the car, and as Isaac would like swerve through traffic like a maniac, he would ask Danny for an update on the leads in the pipeline, and then he would ask Ari and myself to give an update on all the new leads, or all the new clients that had come on board. And that was like a really good time, and that was the update. Now, we were small people, we were a small company, we fit in one car, and that was a couple years later, the idea that's spun into the Friday rundown meeting, which I think is a big piece of what we do today. So they weren't all a complete waste. 2017, we moved into our first office, which is just down the block of where we are now. It was a converted warehouse. Or a garage, and we learned a lot about what not to do when setting up an office. For example, when the landlord was asking, do you want me to put sheetrock up or just like leave the cinder blocks? We're like, no, it's like cool. It looks like industrial. And then when winter came and there was no heat and Nechama almost froze to death, we didn't have sheetrock. Isaac's solution to that was buying her gloves, that like our heated gloves that plug into the USB on, like I think we still have them somewhere around here. So a lot of like growing pains, and I think this whole area, this time period is defined by our ability to have really good success, but it wasn't repeatable. It wasn't scalable. We got lucky in some areas, not so lucky in some others, and I think we really struggled with hiring. We got really lucky with some of the people that are now senior team members here. Nechama, Ronnie, Erica, Esty, Avery all joined the company when we were over in that office down the block. And then in 2019, as we continued to grow, we moved into this space, bought the building, started to continue to do some construction. It looked very different than what it does now. And we started to look more like an actual company, which was interesting until the pandemic hit. Then we had to learn more about what was really good, what was bad. We had to learn new skills, the whole remote thing. We couldn't rely on one another for one, emotional support, but also a lot of our processes that didn't exist really came to head. It really showed that we had a lot of holes in our company and our processes. So I think 2021 has really been about growing up as a company. It's about finding a way not just to drive results, but also to develop the processes that can repeat on those results and help develop a company that can scale. So we opened up our office in Philadelphia. Thank you to Brendan Roach, and now to Kelly and to Richie and other people that are going to join that effort there. Part of the benefit of that is really to just expand our talent pool, something that we've sort of struggled with. It's really hard to bring on the right kind of people. We are sort of an elitist bunch. We've been very picky about the people we bring onto this team. And as we continue to grow the company, I think being able to be a little more diverse with our geographic location is certainly advantageous to us. So that's where we are, and it brought us to now. So I think when we look at in the early days when we were a smaller company, education and skill development was easily shared across the organization. Isaac would read a book like Cialdini's Influence, and he would come in and he'd be having a conversation with Ari about it. And I'd be sitting next to Ari and I'd be eavesdropping and I would learn a thing or two. And that was great. I learned how to pitch business and sell and talk to clients because I just had to listen to Ari, or I had to listen to Danny and Isaac talk to clients all day long. My original methods of talking to clients was just me copying what they did. And that really worked, but as you continue to grow, those things become more and more of a challenge. As not just as the team grows, but as we expand in different offices. I think this becomes a really important thing to say, how do we continue to share skills and learning and great ideas across the organization? I think we can learn so much from each other. Even Luca, who joined this week, this is his 4th day at Adventure Media, will be presenting something today, and we talked about the topic, and it's going to be great. Not to set the bar too high, Luca. But we can all, like I said before, we're sort of an elitist bunch. Luca is a rock star, if you haven't really had a chance to talk to him yet. And we have a lot to learn from him in the same way that all of us individually can learn from the rest of us. So in a typical day that we have here, we're all extremely busy. We're being torn in a million different places. Today is a day for us to slow down, to stop and listen, and for all of us to grow together. So today is not just a day to share ideas. Today is a day for everyone here to develop their own skills and to flex a little bit. At some point in your career, all of you will be required to present ideas to much tougher audiences. So think of this as a good, easy practice round. Trust me, you won't get booed or yelled at, and hopefully there won't be too many interruptions. The second goal, as I mentioned, is sort of an opportunity for everyone to brag a little bit. This is sort of a platform for you to flex your muscles. We want to hear about all the things you've been working on, the things you're proud of, the things that you're really excited about. Like I said, this company is filled with all-stars. We've always had this elitist mentality, and I want everyone, I know how great everyone here is, but I want to make sure that everyone else knows how great you are. And this is your opportunity to flex a little bit. The third goal, and just on that point, everyone's way too humble. That's a thing that we've talked about all the time. Nechama, that's your probably biggest character flaw, is that you come up with these great ideas and don't tell everyone about it. So that's sort of why Dola is so great. But the last goal is to develop content and training material. That's why we have Benny here. That's why we're recording this. We need to encapsulate this material. In our last Dola, Abby gave a presentation about web scraping. And it was awesome and it was interesting, but it was a little bit outside of the realm of things that we generally talk about or do on a day-to-day basis. But it doesn't mean it wasn't valuable. It doesn't mean it wasn't a good conversation. I sort of stored it in the back of my head. Just yesterday, we were on the phone with a client that was talking about an e-commerce client that was talking about monitoring their competitors' pricing. And I just had this revelation of saying, oh my God, we should be building web scraping tools to see, okay, well, how can we keep track of clients' pricing for similar products? And maybe we can build that into Tableau and so on and so forth. And that was because of something that Abby presented nearly 5 months ago now. So thank you, Abby. Thank you, Dola. I think we want to make sure that these ideas keep going. Now, to kick things off, last time I sort of pitched our org chart and the future of the direction of the company and how we were defining roles. Up until this year, when we're trying to grow up as a company, everyone sort of had the same job. We called each other different names and we had different titles on our LinkedIn, but everyone was a sort of an account manager, but also a senior account manager, sometimes a salesperson, sometimes the CEO. All these things were sort of murky. And the last Dola, we were trying to present our ideas for where we were going to go in the future. Now, 5 months down the road, we have a little bit more clarity. We still have some work to do. And I think this is always going to be a moving target. We're going to be refining this as we go. As you can see here, this is basically the very simple structure of our organization. Marketing and sales on the one side, which is headed up by Ari, and then everything else on the operations side, including client services, strategy, reporting, and analytics. That's basically the majority of the people sitting in this room and on the Zoom call. I like to think of operations as the product that we deliver for our clients. So the product that we sell is our services. So how do we make sure that we have a really good service, that we can deliver a high quality of results for clients, but also scale and do that on a repeated basis. And those are the things that I spend most of my time trying to figure out how to do better. And that's also sort of why we're all here today. Let's go a little bit more in depth here. Speaks for itself, but marketing responsible for driving inbound leads. for adventure services, and supporting outbound sales efforts through sales enablement activities. These are things you guys are going to hear from Nina today. She does a lot of things that a lot of people don't hear about every day. I think a lot of you don't really get a chance to talk to Ari very often, or Erica or Ronnie or other people, but there's a lot of really exciting things going on from the sales and marketing perspective. And that includes the content program. Second part is sales, closing new business, managing contracts, maintaining relationship with current, former, and potential points of contacts at clients. This includes the inbound and outbound sales initiatives and the agency partner program, which maybe we'll hear about today, maybe not. On the client services side, this is responsible for executing the work outlined in our client contracts. This includes understanding business goals, developing strategy, optimizing ad campaigns, and reporting on results. Client services sits in between the sales team and kind of the rest of the people doing the work to ensure that the clients clearly see our values and they're satisfied with our partnership and continue to pay us. Client service is really what we built this entire agency on. If you just think about what does that really mean, it's just think about anything we've been doing for the last 6 years. Strategy is sort of the newest department here, responsible for client growth. Works closely with the client services team to solve the larger marketing challenges that may or may not be related to the actual ad campaigns that we're running. And this includes the analytics department, which owns reporting and advanced analyses that help close the feedback loop on client performance. We're going to talk a little bit more about strategy because I know there's a lot of questions on that. Future vision of the client services department, something that's been headed up by Avery. This is sort of, like I said before, this is how we built this company. All of us at some point fit into this somewhere, and we're able to grow throughout there. We've talked about the pod system. Some of you have a little bit more insight into this than others, but instead of our former way of going about client services was saying, okay, we're going to assign a senior account manager and a lead account manager or junior account manager to an account, but those teams are going to be all across the world, so all across the organization. So I might be working with Ronnie on this account, I might be working with Greg on that account, Melissa might be working with Ronnie or with Nahama, and it's sort of all over the place. And I think that's really good because you learn a lot of ideas and you learn a lot about different things that are happening across the organization. But what you lack is the ability to have consistent relationships and really get to know the people that you're working with and benefit from just everything that comes with a consistent working relationship. So the idea of this whole pod system is to improve that, improve the working relationships, streamline our workflow activities, but also to, I hate to use the word empower, but to sort of empower these individual teams within the organization to run their own business within the organization. So when we talk about what is our budget for freelancers, or what is our budget for market research for a client, those things are kind of complicated. If you're just like spread out, everyone's doing their own thing. But as we centralize our business units into these pod systems, whether it's a senior account manager working with a few junior account managers or an entire group working together, we can now build that all up and we can now have more autonomy. And essentially the senior account manager or group director can look at their part of the business and take full ownership of it. They can make some of the real-time decisions about where we should be spending budget, what kind of freelancers we should be working with. So when we talk about what is our budget for freelancers, or what is our budget for market research for a client, those things are kind of complicated. If you're just like spread out, everyone's doing their own thing. But as we centralize our business units into these pod systems, whether it's a senior account manager working with a few junior account managers or an entire group working together, we can now build that all up and we can now have more autonomy. And essentially the senior account manager or group director can look at their part of the business and take full ownership of it. They can make some of the real-time decisions about where we should be spending budget, what kind of freelancers we should be working with, what sort of ad platforms we should be advertising on for this group of clients. That's information that historically have come up to the rest of us, and I don't spend as much time in these accounts as you guys do. And you're really good at this, and I trust you to make these decisions now. So we're going to be creating these teams, these pod structures. The first part of it is the Philadelphia office. So Roach is really the first senior account manager that's working directly with Kelly and Richie, and that's going to be a full-fledged team. And we're going to continue to work on this and build that out over time. The strategy department is still new. So it's headed up by Nahama, and then we have Esty, and over time we hope that Luca can move into this role as well. Again, we just said he just joined, but I think he'll fit into this role pretty nicely. So just to talk about the left side of the screen here first, these are the people that we're going to be assigning individual strategists to larger accounts. So if we take our experience with Yoga International, for example, we were trying to pilot this program, and Esty was the strategist that was working on that account. She was trying to work on projects that were not necessarily tied to the day-to-day of the account performance. More long-term projects and larger scale things that we'll talk about a little bit further. This also, for the time being, includes the analytics department, which is really just Abby and Greg, both in sort of hybrid roles at this point, but this is where we can tie these things back. If we think about where strategy fits in, a lot of it is answering questions and solving problems, and that's exactly where this team fits in. That's trying to figure out, the effectiveness of certain channels or proper budget allocation. These are the things that the analytics department will help solve. The strategist, so whether it's Esty in this example or maybe Luca or somebody else in the future, strategists assist accounts with no clear next steps. So they're not necessarily working on the day-to-day account management as we would be historically have done, but when we get to a point where it's like, I don't really know what to do next. And that comes in two different forms. You have performance that is bad. You have accounts that are bad despite us doing everything on a client services side that's good. We set up this account for success. We did everything by the book. We know what the client's goals are. It should be working and it's not. That happens to us all the time. The other example is that performance is good, but growth is stale. These are things where you want to bring in somebody that can sort of be a consultant and look at this and say, okay, well, here's a different way I might look at this. Maybe let's do international growth. Maybe let's look at a different channel. Maybe let's do a conversion rate optimization study. Let's bring on a content agency to develop more content for this company. This is the sort of project, these are the sort of projects that our strategy team will be working on and will be more ingrained, while the client services team can help ensure that we're doing a good job on the account. We want to make sure things are buttoned up and nothing gets distracted. The point is to proactively come to clients with new ideas and a way to execute on them without distracting from account management. Pretty simple. They work on pattern recognition and problem solving. So a few weeks ago, Nahama had everyone work on individual audits, and she was collecting notes and trying to look at how everyone collectively approaches solving problems, and then found some overall patterns that can be replicated on. You guys are going to learn more about that later today, but these are the types of things that we're trying to solve. How can we take these micro problems that every single person is experiencing and have a solution that is a framework that everyone can benefit from, and we can get better as an organization. The last thing here is this concept of the marketing thing. Some of you have heard about this. Maybe this is a new terminology for some of you, but this is the idea of just bringing a new idea, a new thing, whether it's a new campaign type or a new channel or a new conversion rate type of project. These are all things that are going to be headed up by the strategy team. The other part of this is our global freelancer pool. Thank you to Bruna and Avery for really getting this off the ground. We currently have 400 freelancers in this pool that have been vetted. We have quizzes and qualifiers, and Avery spends so much of his time interviewing these people. I do not know how you do it. It is very impressive, and we're working on better ways to continue to expand upon this and also make it more seamless so that we can make better decisions about bringing people on, moving across channels and across teams and things like that. This is just another piece of the overall system. So when we look at client account team structure, this is typically how, let's say, like a mid-size to large-size account team will be set up. So you have the account executive, the salesperson, that owns the relationship with the decision maker at the client side. Sometimes these two are the same person. So you might squeeze these two together, and the account executive has a relationship with that person. But that's really important when it comes to contracts, when it comes to big decisions. These are the sorts of things that this person is in charge of making sure that we are in a good position there. Senior account manager for a larger account will be the lead account manager. This is the person that is essentially a project manager to make sure all the moving parts are going in the right direction and to be the main point of contact for the client. The junior account manager supports them in all the activities. Maybe they're working with the freelancers, maybe they're not. And then we have the strategist on the other side that's working alongside the overall team. For smaller accounts, we have the junior account manager will be the lead. This happened with Volvo. Kelly's the lead account manager working with Brendan in that traditional senior account manager coaching. I'm going to help foster a relationship, help you learn, and make sure that we have all the tools we need to succeed. And I think that's it for me. I'm going to pass it off to Isaac, who's going to take the next couple slides here, but yeah. But I appreciate it, looking forward. We didn't practice this transition or anything, so I'm just gonna walk away, but looking forward. Thank you, everyone.